Does every drum and bass track you make just suck no matter what you try? I've been there. 20 years ago, my beat sounded like someone kicking a Pringles can down a hallway. Since then, I've produced over 250 tracks and won awards for my compositions and productions. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 simple, reliable tricks I've picked up over the years that you can start using right now to elevate your tracks from amateur to pro fast. So this first trick has got to be the easiest of them all, yet it's one of the most overlooked things I see in so many amateur productions. Mastering this simple element will literally save you hours of frustration down the road. Imagine you're cooking something basic, like soup. You follow the recipe, but something tastes off. So you toss in some red wine, but that makes it sour. To fix that, you dump in a bit of sugar. Next thing you know, you've thrown in 16 different ingredients, and your soup has become an unrecognizable mess. This happens all the time in music production. And yes, I was also guilty of this when I was a new producer. It's tempting to keep adding layers to fix problems, but before you know it, you've spoiled your D&B soup and your tune's wrecked. But here's the secret. Some of the most iconic drum and bass tracks ever released are built around just 4 simple ingredients: drums, bass, atmospheres, and sometimes vocals. Try stripping back your track. Temporarily mute pads, synths, and extra percussion layers, and really listen to just your drums and bass. If those core elements don't feel solid on their own, no amount of layering or effects will fix it. Perfecting the most bare bones version of your track first will help you slap that finish line like it owes you money. Once that's locked in, you can experiment with adding extra layers confidently, knowing you're building on a solid foundation. And while we're at it, please don't create tracks that look like this. And for crying out loud, color code and group your tracks. Group by those 4 elements that we mentioned from before. Trust me, this will make things 10 times easier for you, and it has the added benefit of looking super professional and sexy. The next trick tackles something that used to leave me totally paralyzed with indecision, and I know I'm not alone here. Beginners and even seasoned producers have all struggled with this at some point. But if you avoid this one mistake, you'll be cooking up tasty beats in a fraction of the time. You know this guy. I've been this guy, stuck in an endless loop auditioning hundreds of samples, desperately hoping to stumble upon that magic drum sound that'll stop his beats from sounding like a washing machine full of spoons. So, how can you escape sample selection limbo? Here's the unfortunate truth: the perfect sample doesn't exist. It's a myth. Instead, pick something that's 80% decent, throw it in, and keep moving. Once you've got a solid track taking shape, you can always come back and fiddle with your kick till the cows come home. Okay, so this is a public safety announcement. Stop auditioning 500 kicks! The next trick in our bag might be the most impactful of all. For me personally, it's been a massive game changer. Sometimes music production can feel like you're basically blindfolded driving at night on a cliffside road, just praying you don't tumble off the edge. Following this next tip will ensure you know exactly where you're going and will help you avoid disaster. Wouldn't it be amazing if you had a professional producer sitting right behind you, pointing out exactly where you're going wrong? Imagine them explaining where your mix doesn't quite hit the mark, and then telling you precisely how to fix it. Well, if you use it the way I'm about to show you, that's exactly what a reference track does. It takes the guesswork out of production and gives you a clear target to aim for, so you're not just fumbling around in the dark, hoping you accidentally hit the bullseye. So, what is the right way to actually use a reference track? Good news, it's ridiculously simple. Just find a professionally produced track that's close to the vibe, style, or energy you're aiming for, and drag it straight into your project. Don't just listen to the reference one time before you start. You need continual access while you're making your tune. It's literally as simple as that. Here's a bonus tip. Group all of your track's elements into one folder or bus. Then you can easily solo your track and the reference separately, allowing you to quickly compare the two and hear exactly where your track differs. If you want to level up, plugins like Ozone make this sort of comparison testing even easier, letting you quickly pinpoint exactly what's missing or needs tweaking. Remember, reference tracks save lives. Next up is a mistake that pretty much every musician has made at some point. It involves that impulsive part of our brain, the voice that says, "Oh look, shiny!" But this distraction is really just a honey trap, a quick fix for an itch we all feel. No matter if you're a newbie or an expert musician, I know you've done this. You spot some sexy new gear or plugin and you immediately think, this is it. This is the thing that's going to solve all my problems. Of course, I'm talking about GAS, Gear Acquisition Syndrome, a devastating affliction. Symptoms include attraction to pretty blinking lights, compulsive knob twiddling, temporary amnesia, sudden mysterious loss of savings, and chronically unfinished tracks. Sound familiar? So, is there a way we can cure this nasty condition? Absolutely, and Dr. Moonlyte is here to help. Step 1, learn to recognize the difference between genuinely needing something and simply wanting it. That new Gibson isn't going to suddenly make you play like Jimmy Page, Derek. Step 2 is mastering the tools you already have will always beat chasing the new equipment dragon. And here's some advice that they won't tell you. New gear always introduces new problems. So before you reach for your wallet, pause and ask yourself honestly, do you genuinely need this piece of gear, or are you just distracted by the shiny new thing? Now we're hitting the 5th and final trick for taking your drum and bass production to the next level. This is the last crucial step you need to take before calling any mix truly done. Skip it, and your track might end up sounding terrible outside of your studio. Creating professional, finished tunes involves a step in production that you might not be taking. Checking your tracks in the few ways I'm about to show you will make a massive difference. So, what kind of ways do you need to test your mix? Well, there are a few. With drum and bass, it's really important that you test your mix in mono, especially if you plan to play at a venue. Systems in these places are almost never stereo, and if there are major problems with your mix in this format, you need to fix them. If you don't, your track will never hit right in the club. Luckily, I've got a quick way to fix the biggest problem you might have here. Always ensure your sub bass is in mono. I do this in Ableton by dragging a utility plugin onto my master channel and clicking bass mono, and I leave it at about 120 Hz. This will eliminate any phase issues with your bass, which can sometimes completely ruin your low end. You can also click the mono button above to check your whole mix in mono super easily. That's not all, however, as your tracks will hopefully be played on tons of different speakers. Other systems you should test your mix on: laptops, phone speakers, your sister's $15 Bluetooth speaker from Temu, and your dad's 1976 car radio. Your tune is not going to be played on perfect speakers 99% of the time, so it's worth checking your mix on as many systems as you can. When you do this, you'll maybe notice that your bass is too heavy, or you'll have the opposite problem and it sounds thinner than a weak cup of tea. Regardless, you'll hear if there are any big problems with your mix that need fixing. Once your mix sounds decent no matter what system you're playing it on, you're golden. Remember, your mix isn't finished until you've survived the shitty speaker test. So now you have 5 red hot tips to help you take your drum and bass production to the next level. But to have your tracks actually make an impact every time someone plays them, you'll need to know the 4 secrets behind one of the greatest drum and bass tracks of all time. I break them all down in this video, so go watch that next to find out exactly what they are.